Welcome to Newsmax TV. I'm Kathleen Walter. With us now from Washington is Representative Charles Boustany, Republican from Louisiana. Representative Boustany is chairman of the House Ways and Means Subcommittee on Oversight, which has jurisdiction over the IRS and is investigating the reports of how the agency treated conservative groups. And Representative Boustany, thanks for joining us today.
Great to be with you, Kathleen.
The Subcommittee on Oversight held hearings these past couple days into the IRS's targeting of conservative groups. What's the next step in the investigation?
Well, we're getting documents in now, and we've been interviewing some of the employees in Cincinnati, and we're in the process of reviewing that information. And we're also having internal discussions about future hearings. So we had these initial hearings to lay out the problem. The hearings went very well. We know there are deep problems at the IRS with serious abuse, mismanagement across the board, and egregious intimidation tactics that were used with a number of these groups, as well as private personal donor tax information that's been released in violation of federal law. And so we're tracking down all of these angles, and we're going to get it all out in the public. And once we find who's responsible for this, certainly they will be held to account under the law.
House Oversight Committee Chairman Darrell Issa says he believes it was the Obama administration that was behind the IRS targeting not agents at a low-level field office. Democrats have blasted Darrell Issa, claiming he has no proof of this. What's your take? Does the GOP have proof of this?
We know so far that folks in Washington, D.C. knew about this. We know that the commissioner and acting commissioner, both former acting commissioner and former commissioner, knew of this in March 2010. And we know that there's no question in my mind that there were people in more senior positions directing this. Now, we're still trying to connect all those dots and making the leap into the White House or over to Treasury, things that we're still looking at. Mm-hmm. So we have a long way to go on this. We have to do this very thorough investigation, and we are committed to doing it, putting all the facts on the table.
Mm-hmm. The U.S. Treasury's Inspector General released a new report that shows the IRS spent $50 million on 220 conferences in 3 years alone. One conference alone in which IRS officials enjoyed luxury hotel rooms cost taxpayers $4 million. Are these expenditures downright wasteful? And if so, how can House Republicans hold the agency accountable?
Well, I asked Secretary Lew back in January or February earlier this year whether or not any further waste could be eliminated from the Department of Treasury, and particularly the IRS, because the IRS was asking for $1 billion more in resources for the fiscal year coming up. And, of course, he said no. This is also in the same time frame when we found this production studio that's costing the taxpayer $4 million a year. We found the Star Trek video, the Gilligan's Island video, and now this dance video. There is serious waste and abuse. And, of course, with the Inspector General's report now showing all this money on conferences, the waste has been rampant. And we're going to root it out, and we're going to put a stop to it. And the fact of the matter is there are a number of areas that we need to fully investigate with regard to the IRS. This is one of them. And we're going to put a stop to that wasteful expenditure.
Senator Ted Cruz recently came out saying it's time to abolish the IRS. Do you agree with that statement? And if not, how do we go about reforming the agency?
Well, we're going to have to implement reforms to the agency to put checks and balances back in place. But to the broader picture on this, we need fundamental tax reform. We need to go line by line in the tax code, starting from scratch, and rewrite the tax code to make it fairer for taxpayers. Right now, it's increasingly, and it's really terribly unfair to the taxpayer. It's very complex. We need to simplify this tax code, make it fair for the taxpayer, make it easy to comply, not only easy, but less expensive in time and money to comply with it. And we also need to make sure that the code is written in a way so that you cannot get these complex fraudulent schemes that occur within the tax code, making it difficult for the IRS to administer. This creates problems with the IRS, problems for the taxpayer. That's why we got to simplify the tax code.
We learned recently that White House appointees are allegedly using secret emails. Does this violate the president's promise of transparency, and how does this complicate potentially investigations such as the IRS investigation?
Well, we have asked for all emails of certain key individuals at the IRS to be made available to the Ways and Means Committee. That includes private emails. We will see if they follow through on that, but we're going to be very forceful in that regard because there is a potential criminal investigation ongoing at this time. But it is essential that this agency come clean, and all those involved, whether it's through their work-related email or private email, need to be made available to the committee so that we can determine what exactly happened, who was responsible for these abuses and these intimidation tactics, and how we can go about fixing all this. So we want all this information, and we're going to demand it.
Let's switch gears for a second. As not only a congressman, but also a physician, what do you make of HHS Secretary Kathleen Sibelius's solicitation of support for a pro-Obamacare group? The House Energy and Commerce Committee is investigating. And also, should Kathleen Sibelius step down?
Well, this is a really troublesome development, worrisome development. This strikes me as a clear overreach and abuse on the part of the Secretary. To target organizations, entities that she potentially is regulating to get money, it really comes close to something that looks like potential extortion. I have no problem. We need to thoroughly investigate this. I spoke yesterday with the chairman of the Energy and Commerce Committee and urged him, since it's in their jurisdiction, to take a very hard look at this and not leave any stone unturned. This is something that should not occur. And this sort of fits into a pattern that we've seen with Secretary Sibelius with regard to her disregard for law in many respects, really playing it fast and loose. We need to get to the bottom of this and hold her accountable on it.
Many have called for Sibelius to step in and allow a 10-year-old girl dying of cystic fibrosis to be allowed on the adult organ transplant list. According to federal policy, you have to be 12 to be on the adult transplant list. What do you think about this case?
Well, I'm a heart surgeon by training. I did open heart surgery and lung surgery. I'm deeply, deeply troubled that the bureaucratic process and rigidity that's built into it would allow this young girl to die from cystic fibrosis. I don't think that's right. And I heard about this just yesterday. One of our members of Congress who represents that district was pleading with all of us to urge the Secretary to intervene in this effort. Mm-hmm. The fact of the matter is the Secretary does have waiver authority to waive the rigidity in these regulations. She can do it, and she can save the life of this young woman. She needs to do that. And that's the right thing to do.
You think she should step in?
I don't know what she's going to do, but time's wasting away for this sick young girl and her family. And I sure hope that compassion and a sense of morality will prevail in this case, and that the Secretary will do the ethical thing to do, and that is use the waiver authority to waive this rigid regulation to save a life.
Last question for you, Representative Boustany, is on a separate issue. According to published reports, President Obama will appoint Susan Rice as National Security Advisor, a bold move considering that she is facing high criticism from conservatives for mischaracterizing facts about Benghazi. What do you make of this?
Well, we all know that she mischaracterized facts about Benghazi and continued to do so even after there was information to suggest that those initial talking points were completely wrong. I have a real problem with that nomination. Clearly she was considered at one point potentially to follow Secretary Clinton as Secretary of State, and because of the outcry that occurred among conservatives, independents, and others who were deeply concerned about her integrity, I stand with them, and I have deep concerns about whether she's fit to serve as National Security Advisor.
All right, Representative Charles Boustany, thanks so much for being with us today.
Thank you. Great to be with you.
And thank you for watching Newsmax TV.